The air within the witch doctor's dwelling was thick with mystical energies as Ato and his mother stood before Ekua. Before Ato could utter a word, the witch doctor intoned, "You must marry her." Ato's mother knelt before Ekua. As Mr. Kofi walked back from the farm, his mind heavy with the recent happenings in his home, nature seemed to reflect the turmoil within. Suddenly, a deafening thunderclap shattered the stillness, and a colossal tree crashed down near him, narrowly avoiding a potential fatal encounter. The narrow escape sent shivers down his spine, and just as he caught his breath, a fierce wind swept in, heralding a torrential downpour. "This is a bad omen," Mr. Kofi muttered to himself as he sought shelter from the relentless rain. The elements seemed to echo the tumultuous emotions that raged within him. He couldn't shake off the feeling that the forces of nature were somehow communicating something to him. When Mr. Kofi finally reached home, drenched and shaken, he was met with the devastating news of Abena's passing. The weight of the recent events pressed heavily on him as he absorbed the reality that he had lost his daughter. His heart, already burdened with the pain of their strained relationship, now carried the additional weight of regret. Tears streamed down Mr. Kofi's face as he wept for the daughter he had lost. The storm outside mirrored the storm within, each raindrop seemingly a reflection of his sorrow. The village, once alive with the rhythmic beats of life, now seemed muted in the face of tragedy. The next morning, with a heavy heart, Mr. Kofi gathered some kinsmen and set out for Ato's family to deliver the news of Abena's passing. The air hung with tension as they approached Ato's home, the rain from the previous night still lingering in the air. As Mr. Kofi informed Ato's family of the tragic fate that had befallen his daughter, their expressions shifted from sympathy to a stoic acknowledgement. The reality of Abena's death seemed to settle over the room like a heavy fog. However, the unresolved question loomed large. How will they bury Abena when she had not been married? The traditions of Akorofu village dictated that a dead pregnant maiden could only be buried after her dowry had been paid, a dowry that Ato had refused to fulfill. The air thickened with an unspoken tension as both families grappled with the implications of tradition and societal expectations. In the wake of Ato's continued refusal to take responsibility for Abena's pregnancy, despite countless pleas and attempts from her grieving family, a decision was made. Abena's family, torn between the weight of tradition and the need to find closure, resolved to bury their daughter. Following the required rites dictated by their culture, they laid Abena to rest in a somber ceremony, her grave a pregnant symbol of unresolved pain and societal expectations. Abena's mother, a vessel of anguish and sorrow, could not bear the weight of her daughter's tragic fate and the shame that shrouded her burial. In a moment of inconsolable grief, she gathered the soil from Abena's grave, her tears falling as silent witnesses to the pain etched in her heart. With a heavy heart and a mother's righteous fury, she cursed the person responsible for her family's agony, decreeing that they will know no peace. Days after Abena's burial, Ato, oblivious to the supernatural forces at play, was engrossed in the task of cooking in his kitchen. Suddenly, an eerie sound filled the air, sending shivers down his spine. As he cautiously stepped outside, he was met with a chilling sight: the ghostly figure of a pregnant woman, unmistakably Abena, standing before him. Ato, overwhelmed by fear, screamed and fainted. Hours later, Ato awoke, the vivid memory of the ghostly encounter etched in his mind. Consumed by fear, he confided in his mother, seeking refuge. Faced with the potential shame that could befall her family, Ato's mother decided to take matters into her own hands. Under the cloak of darkness, mother and son embarked on a mysterious journey to the enigmatic hills of Shai, guided by a purpose known only to Ato's mother. The arduous journey tested their resolve as they traversed treacherous landscapes guided by the whispers of the wind and the shadows of the moon. Throughout the journey, Ato questioned the destination, seeking answers from his mother, but she cryptically insisted that it was better for him not to know, urging him to trust that she was acting in his best interest. The secrecy surrounding their quest heightened the suspense as the two pressed on. The next day, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they reached the abode of a powerful witch doctor, nestled deep within the heart of the Shai Hills. The air buzzed with ancient energies, and the surroundings resonated with an otherworldly aura. The witch doctor, Ekua, awaited their arrival, sensing the energies of seekers in need. The air within the witch doctor's dwelling was thick with mystical energies as Ato and his mother stood before Ekua, the wise and revered practitioner of ancient arts. Before Ato could utter a word, the witch doctor intoned, "You must marry her." Ato's eyes darted to his mother, seeking guidance, but he received a subtle pinch, a signal to remain composed. In a hushed voice, Ato's mother knelt before Ekua, pleading for her intervention. She acknowledged her son's breach of tradition and the potential consequences. With a knowing gaze, Ekua embarked on a series of incantations, weaving the threads of unseen forces that bound the living to the restless dead. When the incantations was concluded, Ekua turned to Ato with a solemn expression. The only way to avert the wrath of the dead is to exhume Abena's body and bind it with chains, or face the torment that awaits you. Ato's disappointment was palpable, his hopes shattered by the gravity of the solution presented. Reluctantly, Ato and his mother made their way back to Akorofo, burdened by the weight of a daunting task that lay ahead. The next day, Ato and his father, Mr. Kweku, were engaged in a conversation in front of their hut when suddenly Abena's ghost materialized before Ato, a haunting apparition that sent him into a state of sheer terror. In fear, Ato let out a piercing shout and dashed into the hut. Mr. Kweku, bewildered by his son's sudden panic, followed him to uncover the cause. Finding Ato in a state of distress, pointing towards an empty space and screaming about Abena's ghost, Mr. Kweku, unable to perceive the spectral presence, was puzzled. "Why are you seeing the ghost of Abena if you have nothing to do with her?" Mr. Kweku questioned. Confusion etched on his face. It was in that moment of vulnerability that Ato, overwhelmed by guilt and fear, confessed the truth to his father. The words spilled from his lips, narrating the tale of betrayal, denial, and the supernatural entanglements that now gripped their lives. Mr. Kweku, grappling with the revelation, felt the weight of his son's transgressions. The air hung heavy with the unsettling truth as the haunting presence of Abena's ghost lingered, unseen but deeply felt. In the hushed hours of the evening, Ato, Mr. Kweku, and two kingsmen approached Abena's father, bearing symbolic offerings, a goat, yams, and kola nuts, the humble gift to a plea for forgiveness and a sincere gesture to mend the wounds caused by Ato's actions. Mr. Kofi, a man of peace, accepted their apology, but insisted that the matter transcended his authority, directing them to the village chief priest. At the break of dawn the next day, both families sought the wisdom of the village chief priest. The solemnity of the occasion hung thick in the air as the chief priest declared the only way for Ato to find peace was to marry the dead. Fear and regret gripped the men as they absorbed the gravity of the pronouncement. With heavy hearts, they left the chief priest's abode, the weight of their dilemma settling upon them like an unshakable shadow. That night, sleep evaded Ato, his mind consumed by thoughts of the surreal situation he found himself in. In the depth of the night, when he eventually slept off, a terrifying dream visited him. A haunting procession of ghostly pregnant women chased after him until he jolted awake. Fear-stricken, Ato sought refuge in his father's room, his restless thoughts yearning for a way out of the impending doom. However, the stark reality of his predicament left him with limited options. Reluctantly, Ato and his family consented to the unsettling resolution they will pay the dowry for the dead. A date was set for the eerie union, and in a low-key ceremony, Ato found himself bound to his ghostly bride. The marriage, a gruesome affair that defied the laws of the living, marked the end of the torments that plagued Ato. The restless spirits of pregnant women ceased their pursuit, their ethereal presence now tied to the union that defied the boundaries between life and death. Despite the temporary relief from the ghostly torment, Ato's life took a bleak turn. The haunting specter of his ghost wife cast an unyielding shadow over his future endeavors. Any attempt at pursuing a physical wife or building a family was met with the relentless interference of the spectral presence. Ato, ensnared in a web of supernatural consequences, lived a miserable existence, devoid of companionship, love, and the joys of family life. Moral lesson. The story of Abena and Ato serves as a cautionary tale about the consequences of betrayal, denial, and defiance of cultural traditions. It underscores the importance of taking responsibility for one's actions, honoring commitments, and respecting the sanctity of cultural practices. Additionally, it highlights the profound impact our decisions can have on not only individual lives but also on our families and societies. If you enjoy my story, please make sure to subscribe, not forgetting to hit on the bell notification icon so that when next I post another interesting story, you will be the first to know about it. Also, make sure to like and share this story with your family and friends. Until we meet again in my next video, remain blessed. Thank you.